Hearty Ho here. Welcome to a one-off album review, and it is the first part of the Gary Moore story. Now we've done a little bit of Gary Moore when he was in Thin Lizzy, but I decided let's have a look at the rest of Gary Moore because I am a huge Gary Moore fan. I've seen him I saw him 3 or 4 times, and he is sadly missed because he was just a fantastic guitar player and wrote some great songs, and everyone still likes playing them. I mean, my brother is a guitar player, and his huge influence was Gary Moore. He likes the wang bar, as he calls it. So we got to start at the beginning, as you do with most people. And the first band that Gary was sort of involved with is a band called Granny's Intentions. Now, they were formed in the 60s in Limerick, and that's where they started playing popular in the pubs locally, and then they went up to Dublin, where they broke better into the scene, and they became very popular. Their name was they changed their name to the Intentions, to Granny's Intentions, because Pat Elgin wrote about them and he listed them under their both names in the same column. And in 1970 they brought out an album. Now, the original drummer Noel Bridgman had left, and then he would come up later in Gary's career. So the album they brought out, the only album this band brought out, is called Honest Injun. And Injun is spelled Injun. Came out in 1970. Didn't do a carrot, but I managed to get a copy of this about 4 years ago, so I haven't had this very long. And playing on this is Gary Moore's on the guitar. We've got Johnny Dunham on vocals, Pat Nash on drums, Pete Cummins on bass and flute. Noel Bridgman just played drums on one track, and guitars by Johnny Hockaday and mandolin. So the first track is called Maybe. Now, this is a really good track, actually. It's one of my favourites on the album. Some really great guitar work here from Gary, and even at this early age, you could tell this lad had some skill. Got lots of little traits of what we love about Gary Moore already. It's a really good track. Then we have a track called We Both Need to Know. Now, this is very country. I've never thought I'd hear Gary Moore playing country music, but he is, and his guitar work again is really good. Really good track. Then we get Good Eye. Now, this is a groovy little number. Again, you can hear some great guitar work from Gary, and the double guitar with this Johnny Hockaday. That solid rock track from the 70s. It really did work. Then we had a track called 50 Years On. A very country sort of song again, but again, Gary does shine. It's one of them albums when you put on and if you didn't know who was playing on it, and you go, oh, I recognise that. That sounds like Gary Moore. Even at as a young teenager, he was pretty good. Then we get Susan of the Country. This is great. It's very distinctive. Gary Moore written all over it. Then we have my favourite track on this album, and it's called Rise Then Fall. It's got that lovely double guitar. It's got a great bass line on this. And the drums are pretty good. And the vocals from Johnny Dunham. He's a pretty good singer, and it really rocks. Like that track a lot. Then we get a track called Salty Eyes / Dirty Lies. Now, the Salty Eyes is a bit brassy. Not keen on that. But Dirty Eyes is great. It's got a Hammond keyboard in it, and a great guitar solo from Gary. Spot on. Now, I've got to be careful how I say this. The next track is called the Fourthskin Blues. Now this is the first time we hear a bluesy sound from Gary, and it's pretty good. He's some great playing on that. Then we get Nutmeg, Bittersweet. Now this song reminds me of something that you would get when he joins Colosseum 2. I love the flute. It's so chilled out. It's amazing track. One of my favourites off this track. This has got a bit of the Celtic feel again. As something that you would get with Gary, especially some of his contributions to them Thin Lizzy albums he played on. And then he did it in his solo career. Really good little track that is. And then we get the last track, which is called Heavy Loaded Minds. A really good track again. It's a very sort of mixture of different guitar textures and some nice drumming on here. Really good. Now, I know this album is currently out of print. You can't get it. But I managed to get it at a record fair, I think. I looked at it because I thought, I'm sure I'll ring that. And I looked on the back and there was Gary Moore. And I thought, I've got to have this. And it's good to see the Gary's Humble Starts. There's some good tunes on here. I think this is, you could even hear back in 1970. What a good guitarist Gary became, and the rest is history. But this is the first thing I think that Gary recorded. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. I'm going to put all the tracks. I'm going to put all the tracks in the playlist because. Well, it's a whole chunk. So it's basically the whole album. It's about 40 minute thing. So I'll put that in so you can have a listen yourselves. Well, no, I think I'll put it in. I'll put a link in so you can listen. There won't be a playlist for this because there's not much of this around. So I'll put a link in so that it's on YouTube. I have found it on YouTube. So next week we look at about his second band, Skid Row, which the drummer of Granny's Intention is involved with. So, and it's nothing to do with, of course, Sebastian Bach. This is the Irish Skid Row. Okay, that's all for part 1. Next up is a new album review, and it's a live album review of the new Genesis BBC broadcasts. So join me for that. Bye for now.